So good evening and welcome everyone. Welcome to our webinar today. Before we get into the session, I'd like to invite everyone to just take a moment to become present. We've all been probably coming from a busy day. And, we just have 40 minutes, and to make the best use of this time, it will be useful to be present, just present in this moment. So I invite you to, if you're sitting, sit up, right? Good posture. If you're not sitting, then however makes you comfortable. And we're going to do some focused breathing. We're going to breathe in, counting till 4. We will pause for 4 counts. We will exhale for 4. We will pause for 4. We will inhale for 4. I will do the counting, so you just listen and follow with me, okay? So inhale gently and deeply. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 4. 1, 2, 3. Inhale for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now you breathe naturally and fully. So I am Steve Sankar, Transformational Life Coach, and I'm very pleased to welcome you to today's session. We will have one of these each month, and I'll be happy to have you join with me on this journey of transformation. So just a little housekeeping to start. And I'd like to show this slide. It makes it easier for everyone. So please keep the mic muted unless I invite you to share. Please feel free to write all your questions and comments in the chat as we go along. Do take notes of anything you find interesting or you would like to remember to support you as you go forward. Please always be respectful and kind to others, not only here, but at all times. That's good for ourselves and for others. And as you participate in the webinar, as you listen, engage with an open mind that allows you to learn. We're all here to grow together. And let's give ourselves the best shot for that. So I'd like to share a little bit about myself. So I'm Steve Sankar. I have a business registered. The name is Professional Coach Steve. So you may see that name on social media and on the website. I am the primary coach. This is my full-time vocation. I have dedicated my life to helping individuals transform and grow in a similar way that I have. There was a time earlier on in my life when I would say that, people never changed. People would never change. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. All those things. And when you grow up in an environment where that messaging is around, that can form a part of what you know. And in my own life experience, I have grown and changed tremendously for the better. So all the good parts that I always had got better, and I developed some new parts. And I fully believe in human transformation. Each of us, we have the potential to achieve all our goals, to live a happy, fulfilling, successful life, whatever that means for each of us, because it will mean something differently. I believe in everyone's ability to achieve their goals. I've, I'm qualified and certified as a coach, and I have over 20 years leadership experience in the working world. I'm an avid meditation practitioner. So much for that. And please bear with me as I get a handle on the technology, because one day I'm hoping, one day, one day. So in our session today, you can expect to understand a bit more about what is a positive mindset, understand the benefits, and learn how to create it. So in our short time together, I can only touch on these topics, all right? But you can follow with me. A lot of it might already be familiar to you, and you could always get in touch with me if you'd like to find out more, all right? I'd like to invite you to reflect for a moment on what a positive mindset means to you, and why does it matter now? And before we get into that, there will be a couple other reflective moments in our webinar. And I invite you to give yourself the opportunity to think deeply and freely. Every thought that we create impacts on us. And we often don't have the time to think about our own self, our well-being, our future. Life is too busy for that. So give yourself the opportunity to think deeply and meaningfully. All right, we grow with all our thoughts. So I'm going to pull up this slide to share that with you. What does a positive mindset mean to you? And why does it matter now? I'll give you 2 minutes. I invite you to write it down if you have materials to write. Okay, so let's move on so we can stick to our time. Before we get into what is positivity and what is a positive mindset, I'd like to address what is not a positive mindset and positivity. There is something called toxic positivity. And toxic positivity is basically when we believe that any thoughts or feelings that appear negative in any way, or what we would consider to be negative, that they should all be avoided. So even when these feelings or these thoughts could be in response to events that will evoke sadness, loss, difficult experiences that we'll go through, you know, positivity is encouraged as a means to cope, but not to pretend. It is important that we recognize how we feel, that we honor our feelings, and then if we feel these feelings are not useful, that we change them. So toxic positivity is not what we ever want to practice, but you'd be surprised how common that practice is. And it's often practiced unknowingly by people who set off to paths of enlightenment, paths of enlightenment. There are many of them. So that's harmful. So we never want to do that. When we think of positivity, it's about being optimistic, having a positive attitude, positive feelings, thoughts, words, and actions. Positivity, a positive mindset can become your natural disposition, where no matter what happens in life, you always believe that there is a way forward, no matter how painful. To not think there is a way forward is to get stuck, to become hopeless, to feel helpless. And, that might be something that's common to many of us. I can tell you from my own experience, I know firsthand what that feels like. But positivity, a positive mindset, can be developed over time. Neuroscience tells us that the brain is like plastic. It's moldable and it's shapeable. So we can rewire our brains for positivity. Unfortunately, at this time, it appears that our brains are wired for fear, for self-protection. And psychology believes that that's natural. It's a part of survival. I believe at this time, we are wired for fear and stress and anxiety and even depression due to the challenges that we've experienced in our lifetime, which is separate from the genetics, right? We've all just come through a pandemic. We are pandemic survivors. And I think we don't give enough attention to what the impact has been on us from the pandemic and everything else in our lives, from childhood, you name it, come right up. Even in the present, we're having difficult experiences and may not know how to treat with it. This rewiring or this wiring of the brain starts with a thought. Thoughts repeated basically rewires habits, or it wires habits, both wires and rewires. So our brain could be changing every day, and we can allow that to happen unconsciously by just reacting with anger, with stress, with fear when things don't go in the way we want it to. And unconsciously or subconsciously, it's wiring us for more fear and anxiety. And people who understand depression and anxiety will be able to tell you that medicine doesn't always work for that. Medicine doesn't always work for it. So we have to develop skills, develop new ways of thinking as we go forward, because we live in an increasingly challenging world. 2025 has started off with a big bang, you know? So we want to pay attention to the way we think and the way we feel because it is impacting on our bodies and our future. Having a positive mindset is when you just feel inclined to look at the positive side. And for some people, that would sound like airy fairy and what craziness is this? But I know that some of us here, we practice a positive mindset. We have a higher than average level of emotional resilience because of that positive mindset. Having a positive mindset helps us to cope with difficult situations. We might all think of someone in our lives who we might know, whether it's at work or at home, who has a generally a positive predisposition that whatever comes their way, they face it with a smile. They face it with a smile. I remember some years ago a friend telling me from Venezuela about his mom, who he admired so much. And he said that no matter the challenges that came through life, even the death of a son, his brother, the mother always remained dignified. And it wasn't that she pretended. She always managed herself in a particular way, having a mindset that supported her through life. And bless her heart, she had a lot of challenging experiences. Having that mindset, having that positive mindset will impact positively on our emotional well-being and reduce stress and anxiety. Because how we see things, how we interpret things, our perspective on life is a different one. And this positive mindset shows up in all areas of life, whether it's your family life at home, relationships with people wherever they are, at work, whether you're involved in business, or whether it comes to accomplishing your goals, a positive mindset. So I can share with you today, it is my day 2 of doing a 3-day water fast. And it's taking a lot of positive self-talk to go through it. And I could have given up already. So right now, I'm at the end of day 2, and I'm really hoping that I don't look pale and my energy is zero because the body is really having a new experience, and I'm doing this because of all the health benefits they say, right? All the health benefits. So having a positive mindset is helping me get through this. I would like to invite you to reflect now, right? On what kind of person you believe you would become if you develop the belief that good things are possible. And I know that sounds like a mouthful, so I'm going to show it on a slide. Yes, water fasting for 3 days. So again, think deeply and meaningfully. What kind of person do I become when I believe good things are possible? Give yourself permission to think freely and optimistically. So let's look at some tools to cultivate and sustain a positive mindset. We can begin with daily micro habits. Micro as they're so tiny. Sometimes when we think of new small habits, we feel small is too much to take on. So I'd like to use the word micro. They're so tiny, right? By bringing daily micro habits to reset our thinking patterns. So we know there are times when we could get stuck in thinking about something that is not the way we're thinking, the perspective is not helpful. So then we can find other things that we can do, new habits we can develop that when we find ourselves in that place, we go to one of those habits. An example of those habits would be reading. You can read something that's uplifting, something that's positive that will take you away from whatever you're going through at the moment. So that will not include world news, right? You're not going to read the news, no. But you'd read something positive, and each of us can figure out what that is for ourselves because we have different interests. We are all different and wonderfully so. We can go for a walk. We can practice breathing techniques. We can do some meditation. We can pray. Any of those things that we make a part of our day, a part of our life, that breaks the pattern of negative thinking, of worrying, of anxiety, of being angry, of even being depressed. Another thing is paying attention to our own language, the way we speak about ourselves. Speak positively, speak with optimism, speak truth with your words. We can use our own words and speak of ourselves in very weak and uncertain ways. Like, I'm not sure I will do this. I hope I will do this. No. Change that. Change that to positive. Always think the best of yourself. Always think the best of yourself. Pay attention to the environments that you're in. If you're working on developing a positive mindset, you're not going to find yourself in places where the people don't have a positive mindset. You don't want to be around people who complain all the time. Absolutely not. And it is scientifically proven that complaining makes you sick and it makes others sick. So that's something you could look at on the internet. Complaining makes you sick and it makes others sick. A third thing would be self-compassion. It's not about having pity for yourself, but looking at yourself with love and with compassion. The same kind of love and compassion we would give to others when they need it. We must practice that with ourselves. And it starts here in our thoughts. In our thoughts, become compassionate with yourself. developing our gratitude practice. Every day we develop the practice of counting and listing the things we're grateful for in our life. A good place to start is with 3 of them and write it down. 3 things you're grateful for every day. You can get a nice little gratitude journal, a little book. Visualization is also helpful, where you use your mind to create pictures of what you would like life to be, of challenges being resolved. It's quite powerful. It's quite powerful and transformational. Consuming helpful information, positive information. So if we're on social media, look for positive things. We don't need to hear what everybody thinks about everything. No. Look for things that stimulate you, that build your spirit, that builds your energy. There's so much wonderful information out there that you can consume instead. I can tell you, while it's important to know everything that's happening in the world, it's harmful. It does not help us develop a positive mindset. There is so much information in this world today, and much of it is not true. We have to know what is useful. Information should be useful. So if I'm looking at a video, if I'm scrolling social media, if I'm reading magazines and books, whatever, let it be useful. See how that's going to help me going forward. How is that taking me closer to my goals? Oftentimes we don't think of it that way. Everything we see and we hear and we smell stays with us. It just goes into the subconscious. You can't unsee things. If you're looking at a news story on video, so you're looking at it on video, and it's say it's a crime scene, and you see those things, you cannot unsee it, you know. You can't forget it. It goes right into the subconscious. So be very careful about what you see and what you hear, what you're consuming, because it impacts on us in a big way. I know I'm running these through. It's basically what we have the time for. I'd like to show it on a slide. So those of us who benefit from reading can have the opportunity. So small habits, very, very impactful. Language, environment, compassion for the self. Watch your company. You know, adults are very concerned about the type of company that kids would keep. We don't want young people around bad company, but we don't practice that for ourselves generally. We feel we can manage it with anything. So watch the company you keep. Gratitude, visualization, and consuming helpful, positive information. And now I'd like to invite you to reflect. On how cultivating a positive mindset can impact your relationships, your career, and your emotional well-being. I'm going to show that on a slide because it is a mouthful. But again, please give yourself the opportunity to think about it deeply. how building a positive mindset can impact your emotional well-being, relationships, and career. 2 minutes. And I invite you to feel free to share in the chat what you got, what your answer is for that reflection. Feel free to share. Invite you to think of one new small action, a tiny action that you can incorporate in your day whenever you find that the mindset isn't positive. One tiny action. What might that be? And think how, by incorporating that into your life, how it would support you. how it can make your life better. Now I invite you to think of two things that you're really grateful for in your life. Two things, any two things. And as you think of them, I'd like you to feel that gratitude in your whole body. Hold that feeling, one of them at a time. Beautiful comments. Thank you all. Family and life, life itself and everyone. Faith, life, children, knowing my Heavenly Father and my family, health and family, adaptable and being in the moment, less stress. I'm grateful for this moment and my family. Hmm. Beautiful, beautiful. So, I invite you to take these small steps to go forward and create a positive mindset for yourself first. For yourself. Everyone will benefit afterwards, but do it for you. Do it for you because you deserve it. You deserve a life of happiness, a life of peace, a life of fulfillment, a life of success. Every single one of us, we deserve that. And, creating that life is within our reach. Some of us might be fortunate that we have that support already around us that we can benefit from, and many others don't. And I encourage you and I invite you to get in touch with me if you believe that you would like to take that step and have that support. My sessions are done on Zoom, so it's convenient, and sessions are confidential. They're they're very, very supportive. You'd be surprised how much having someone in your corner on your journey in life will help you. So I invite you to get in touch with me if you like, okay? I invite you to stay with me on this journey for these webinars. I plan to have one a month for the rest of the year. So that's something we can look forward to on the first Tuesday each month. All right. And, one step at a time, just one step at a time. And before it's a step, it's a thought, right? And, from the mindset leads to the life shift. When we create positivity here, we create a positive life for ourselves. And I know many of you can attest to that. So this brings us to the end of the webinar. So thank you all so much for joining. I don't want to go into extra time. Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you all the next time. All right. So see you all next time.